I am Noel Marlowe, and absolutely nothing in my life could have prepared me for the moment I witnessed my son being degraded on that stage. The season of spring, the auditorium of North Grove Middle School was illuminated by sunlight that had penetrated the high windows, illuminating aisles of folding chairs. Families, educators, and students were seated shoulder-to-shoulder, each holding a popcorn and program. Standing, too purposefully concealed myself in the shadowed alcove at the rear to ensure that I could observe Jalen's unveiling without any interruption. He was 12 years old, with a lanky frame, a mop of curls, and a nervous energy that caused him to shift his feet even before the spotlight struck him as he entered the warm environment. His fingers trembled slightly on the fretboard as he carried his instrument like a shield, amid a glow. The sight of him caused my chest to expand with pride. My son has finally developed the courage to pay tribute to his grandfather, adored by playing Simple Man, the tune that Harold had taught me years ago. Harold's voice was nearly audible as it directed me. Jalen's chords. 2 hesitant strums resounded, precise and optimistic, and then the unimaginable transpired. Jalen's voice was detected, his assurance dissipated like a mist. The strings caused his wrists to become frozen. The hall was struck with silence. My chest tightened with the agony as I moved closer, and my pulse quickened. Of observing my son's struggle, then, a harsh reverberation through the silence, the jarring laughter. I am similar to my father. Dear son, both are rendered pointless. Bradley's voice was both venomous and boisterous. I surged across the auditorium from the front row, where he sat with his arms crossed and a smug look on his face. I charged forward, my heart pounding, but the situation intensified before I could reach him. Bradley arose and charged toward the stage, with the recklessness of an individual who believed that his bloodline granted him permission to cause injury. He applied an iron grip to Jalen's arm. Strength, and in a single swift motion slapped him, so hard that the instrument twisted in Jalen's lap and his cheek reeked. Immediately, the audience was jolted by a collective gasp, which was immediately followed by a teacher's shriek. I experienced a loss of strength in my legs. I was on the brink of an eruption as shame and fury collided within me. From the wings, Harold's arrogant grin shone underneath. His voice was audible, and the lights were on. Indeed, it was imperative that he acquires a sense of humiliation. Regret. The term lingered in the air, weighing heavily and poisonous, as if it were an edict rather than an affront. None of them realized that Jalen's jacket microphone was operational during the degrading slap. Harold's cold remark and Bradley's cruel mirth. All the sound was transmitted through the speakers to every corner of the crowded auditorium and beyond. Immediately, I recognized that moment that would be permanently imprinted on the minds of all those in attendance in every household that listened to the district broadcast. My vision was obscured by adrenaline as I hastily ascended the side stairs to the stage. Weaving through stunned students and immobilized staff, Jalen was my initial destination. He stood rigidly, his eyes wide, and the guitar suspended, forgotten in his mind. His wrists, he gazed at Bradley, the individual who struck him, with a flushed face and tears in his eyes. I acted without contemplation. I embraced Jalen, cradling him close and enjoying the sensation of his body against mine. It is not a problem, son, I replied, murmured, despite the fact that my own voice was strained. He buried his face in my suit jacket, and I felt the wet warmth. It's okay. Of his weeping, Bradley's face was a mask of wrath and indignation that erupted into a shout as he hovered, his chest heaving. It is not feasible to enter abruptly. However, I was impatient to learn more. I turned and guided Jalen down the path with a resolute bark, steps forward, my other arm protecting him from the jeers that were already erupting from the crowd. Across the stage, my eyes caught Harold's. The smirk was absent, replaced by astonishment. In that moment, I comprehended that his fundamental monsters were safeguarded by the stillness I had maintained in order to preserve family harmony. Bradley, he had believed that he could assault my son without consequence, emboldened by his status. He was perched in silent approbation, as Harold had exchanged his moral compass for vanity. However, the district was informed of all events due to the live microphone. Every iota of malice was documented. I kneeled and drew Jalen into my arms. As we approached the backstage curtain, his diminutive frame, vibrated, with tears, his guitar was left unattended on a case that was littered with cables. I spoke words as I brushed damp tresses from his forehead. I was aware that he required it. You were extraordinary in that position. You demonstrated the fortitude to attempt. Your bravery will be more vividly remembered by them, greater than their malice. Why would Uncle Bradley do that? He murmured, his eyes damp with tears. My chest tightened. He clenched his fist once more, his anger coiling like a spring. Because he is apprehensive about being observed, I whispered. However, we will not permit it. I hugged him until his respiration slowed, and he no longer used shame as a weapon. The auditorium remained a cacophony behind us, of murmurs and outrage. Jalen's guitar and keys were picked up by me as I stood. I replied with a firm voice, "Let's return home. We have work to do." I was aware of this as we emerged into the cool afternoon air. Merely the commencement. They had humiliated my son, but they had also sparked a potent emotion within me. Safeguarding Glenn was no longer sufficient. It was now time to flex the power that I had discreetly accumulated through Plan Indigo, and ensure that justice and dignity are ultimately given their due. I transported Jalen across the Y approached the threshold of our residence with his instrument case trailing behind us. Each footstep reverberates in my mind like a drumbeat of fury. Skull. His body trembled with silent sobs that shook my chest as I gingerly placed him on the couch. In the event that moment, I comprehended the extent of his anguish more profoundly than any words could. Isla's face was pallid and tight, and she hovered in the doorway with her arms folded, exhibiting the same reluctance that I had observed on numerous occasions. Before the imminent eruption of family discord, she stated in a subdued voice, "It is a family business. Do not jeopardize it." Out of proportion, as if the protection of Bradley and Harold from accountability was more essential than the protection of Urs. However, I could discern the apprehension of scandal hidden beneath her words. The apprehension that our meticulously cultivated image would be tarnished, would disintegrate if the truth were revealed. I discovered that I could no longer tolerate her reticence, as it had never been me vulnerability, but her weapon, a velvet glove that concealed an iron fist of complacency that enabled cruelty to fester unabated. I kneel beside Jalen, gently brushing his curls back from his forehead, and whispering, "You are safe." And he gazed up at me through tear-blurred guitar straps that acted as a lifeline, "And you did nothing wrong." Additionally, too experienced, a powerful surge of determination that coursed through my veins. A determination that has been cultivated over the course of many I had designated Plan Indigo, the calculated patience of constructing a fortress of investments and mute influence. In order to prevent my son from being ever again threatened, I had carefully nurtured this endeavor in secret. I left Jalen to slumber when I arose. I proceeded to my study, where the gentle radiance of my computer awaited me. The area was occupied by papers and folders that bore code names, shelves, but one folder in particular, the encrypted folder, which I had never previously disclosed to anyone. The key to all that I had constructed was in my possession. Ownership stakes in the institution, board meeting minutes, and property deeds, and financing agreements that, albeit through layers, connected every aspect of Northgrove Learning Trust to my name of, holding entities and shell companies that are intended to conceal the institution's actual power. I experienced the familiar sensation of control as I opened the folder, and I was aware that every share, every IA percentage point was a brick in the wall I had constructed around my family. The wall would now be used as a weapon, rather than as a means of protection, not for retribution, but for justice. As I reviewed the strategy I had devised, the hard drive's hum grew louder. Initially, ensure that the key staff member's loyalty is demonstrated through scholarships and grants. Secondly, guarantee that the board did not contain any members who were capable of acting without my authorization. Third, ensure that the school's administration maintains operational autonomy. Responded exclusively to me during periods of crisis. And ultimately, implement the ultimate authority measure, public transparency, of ownership, to retaliate against those who believed they could trample on my son without consequence. Following in the footsteps of Eilish, placed a trembling hand on my shoulder, her breath hitching as she implored, and her words were soft but insistent. "Noel, please refrain from acting in a careless manner. They are still family." I encountered him. My own eyes were frigid but resolute as I met her gaze, and I responded quietly, "My son was transfixed by them. Whether connected to a family or not, cruelty is unacceptable." This location. I sealed the digital crypt by closing the folder, and announcing, "We will resolve this according